What's going on, everybody? C4 here. Welcome back to the channel, and today it's the fallout from the first round of the 2020 NFL Draft. It's we're waking up a little bit of a hangover here, especially if you tuned into the Twitch stream. And thanks to everyone that did tune in the Twitch stream. And I will say right now, tonight for rounds 2 and 3, I will be streaming over on YouTube. So we shared some love with Twitch last night, dusted off the old Twitch, and today we can come back over onto the YouTubes, which is going to be pretty fun. It's going to be nice. I haven't streamed on YouTube in quite some time, and we'll get through the second and third rounds together. But we did well for my predictions. Probably my best predicted mock draft. I think we had, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13? 12 or 13, I think. I don't know. I counted that pretty fast. But 12 or 13 correct picks in my mock, which felt pretty good, especially we had a great run. The first 7 were on point. We're absolute money. So the reason why I'm highlighting that's not just to gloat, but it's kind of giving you an idea of where I'm coming from when I'm giving these grades, because if I essentially mocked a player to a team and they got it, I'm going to give it a great grade. And it could be against the consensus of that fan base. But let's just get right into it real quick. We'll start from pick 1, go all the way down to 32. We have Cincinnati getting Joe Burrow. That's an A. Are they really going to dwell on this one? It's an A. Maybe it's not. Maybe some people say, well, it's an A+, but it's just an A. It's a great pick. It's an easy pick. It's the pick they needed to make. And, I'm going to be, I don't think I gave it 1 A+. I didn't give it 1 A+. I was a little bit of a hard ass. But I guess an A+ needs me to go, that was an unreal move. Maybe there has to be something extra to get an A+ from me today. Maybe I'm just a little bit grouchy because of how things played out last night. But we'll give Joe Burrow to the Bengals an A. Get the franchise quarterback they hope. Washington Redskins, we're up at pick 2. They got Chase Young, giving that an A as well. There were some murmurs that they could potentially, it's more of a false rumor, I would say, but they could play a little quarterback roulette like the Arizona Cardinals did last year and have Dwayne Haskins and trade him eventually and get Tua or something crazy like that, or trade back. But they stayed put. They got Chase Young for that 4-3 defense. Going to be a big-time upgrade over Kerrigan, who's, still offers something, but he's downswing of his career for sure. And having Chase Young and Montez Sweat coming off the edges should be enough to get you up in the morning, get you up on Sunday's Redskins. It's not all doom and gloom. You got Chase Young. That's an A. Detroit, pick 3, got Jeff Okudah. I'm going to give this an A-. It's the right player, but there could be some questions about them being able to trade down and still get Jeff Okudah while acquiring more draft assets. That's the only way that's getting an A-. And I didn't want to be too harsh on this because, it takes 2 to tango. Maybe there wasn't an opportunity for Detroit to take down, even though there probably was, but also might not have been. So because there's a little bit unknown, a little bit uncertainty, but the consensus is, it's a good pick. They could have traded out. It's getting an A-. But Jeff Okudah, instant replacement for Darius Slay. Hopefully he can, replace that actual production, but it's a great fit. New York Giants were up at pick 4, and I had my mock taking Andrew Thomas, which was maybe a little bit out there. Was not a consensus pick by any means for the Giants. And they ended up getting Andrew Thomas, the safest tackle in this year's draft class. So I'm giving that an A. I mean, they could have went riskier. They could have got, WIRFS or BECTON, I guess, would be the 2 riskier tackles. JEDRICK Wills, strictly a right tackle, but Andrew Thomas makes the most sense, man. He can play left side, he can play right side, he can play right side now. He can flip over to left side when they get rid of Nate Solder and maybe the worst contract in the National Football League. So Andrew Thomas, for me, to the Giants, that's definitely an A as they continue to build up that O-line. Miami, pick 5, Tua Tagovailoa. That's getting an A from me all damn day. Tank for Tua. It finally all came to fruition. It's the right call, especially with all the reports that Miami had a clean bill of health on Mr. Tua. They've done their due diligence, and I'm pulling for him. I like Tua, and I hope he does very well there in Miami. Plus, with Ryan Fitzmagic already there, you don't have to rush him. If you are concerned that he should rehab just a little bit more, you got Fitzmagic there to be able to hold the fort down for a couple weeks until you're ready to throw Tua to the Wolves, which I think for how good of a competitor he is, you want to do that sooner than later. Get him out there with Devontae Parker, Preston Williams. Going to the 6th pick, Justin Herbert. That's getting an A as well. Again, this was my final mock. I had all these picks. They're the picks that make sense to me. Justin Herbert going to a very favorable situation in LA. Herbert is a guy that's never gonna. I don't think he's ever gonna be the guy. He's never gonna be able to go on a cupcake team and elevate them and find ways to win. He's not gonna be a Russell Wilson, pull one out of his hat. He's not gonna pull some Aaron Rodgers magic. But Herbert's the guy that if he is in a very good situation, doesn't have to be a great one because I think he's a good player. But if he's in at least a good situation, which is where he's gonna be in LA, where they have the receivers, they've invested in the offensive line. Brian Bulaga, Trey Turner. They have a run game. Austin Eckler, one of the best receiving backs in the NFL. Right? And like I said, wide receiver. You get Hunter Henry at tight end, Mike Williams, Keenan Allen on the outside. The defense is on point. This is a team that is very conducive to Justin Herbert succeeding in the NFL. So it's a great fit for the Chargers. They didn't have to trade up. I was about to give this an A+. I didn't want to give the optics of an A+, because it seems like I'm super high on Justin Herbert. But you know what? I'm going back. I'm giving LA an A+. I'm changing this. You probably, even in the video, it would have popped up A+ right away, because just for when I'm editing it. No, screw it. I'm going to make sure that you guys sat there on the A, and then we turned it back around and got the A+, because they didn't trade up. That was the big, we held it against Detroit, but the big thing was LA would have to leapfrog Miami to get the quarterback that they wanted. That was the big, we were waiting for that within the first 5 picks. They stayed packed and got their guy. So I think for me, I'm going to give that an A+, because they got their guy, and they didn't have to give up any assets like a lot of people thought they were going to have to. So, carrying on to the Carolina Panthers. They got Derrick Brown, which I mocked to Derrick Brown. Seemed like a lot of Panther fans in the chat wanted Isaiah Simmons, but Derrick Brown made too much sense. I'm giving that an A-. I think for Derrick Brown going there, it's a safe pick. It's a new regime, and you got to trust, especially if you're, team Isaiah Simmons over team Derrick Brown, trust Matt Rule. Just probably, he looked at it and say, I'm not sure if we're going to know how to properly use Isaiah Simmons. For everyone that wants Isaiah Simmons, you need to understand that you have to have a plan. You have to know how to utilize him. And if Matt Rule and their DC, they said, I'm not sure if we can utilize him properly, you need to trust that they don't. And they made the right decision by getting the safe pick in Derrick Brown. Derrick Brown, one of the top 5 safest players in this draft. The Panthers' run defense was horrific last year, like a bottom 5 run defense. Derrick Brown's going to improve that immediately, and he has a high ceiling to develop into maybe a well-rounded pass rusher to be a complete defensive tackle. So it's a safe pick for Carolina. The safety of it is why I'm not just straight up giving it an A. They could have potentially been a little more risky. I don't know how. Maybe you could have traded down a little bit, because I don't think Arizona. I mean, man, yeah, even that though, because Arizona, Jacksonville, they could have went Derrick Brown if you didn't do that. But I don't know. It feels like an A- is good. But I know there are a lot of salty fans that they didn't get Isaiah Simmons to come in and replace Luke Kuechly. But trust me, I would say just not even trust me. Trust your staff in saying they realized Isaiah Simmons, it was going to be too much for him, and they got the safe pick, and it's still a great pick. Going to Arizona. Up next, they got Isaiah Simmons. I'm going to give that a B+. I'm giving that a B+ strictly because of the player. I think Isaiah Simmons is going to be a terrific player. My issue is really the Cardinals, the first grade that's not in the A's, just because the Cardinals have a linebacker that's a question mark linebacker, right? Isaiah Simmons is coming in because what's his true position? No one really knows. You got to find it. And Arizona already has a linebacker like that in Hassan Reddick on the roster, and they have struggled to find a way to put him in the best position to succeed. Obviously, different caliber athletes. Isaiah Simmons, A-tier athlete. Hassan Reddick's probably B-tier. Still a good athlete, but I just question the optics of you already have a question mark wildcard defensive player that you're not maximizing. You just brought in another one. So if there's a chance history can repeat itself here with Vance Joseph and that Cardinals defense. So I'm going to have to give it a B+. It's not a bad pick. I just question it. Jacksonville on the clock next. They got CJ Henderson. Mock them to get CJ Henderson. That's getting an A for me. It makes, I'm as salty as any Gator fan that watched all the games and saying CJ Henderson kind of took the year off last year. But if you look at 2018, 2017, CJ Henderson, you look at the needs for Jacksonville, no more Jalen Ramsey, no more AJ Boye outside at corner. Keeping the local kid there, it does make sense. It's a solid pick. If we're talking about first round outside corners, really it's Jeff Okudah and CJ Henderson in this year's draft for sure. Like, I'm not gonna say the for sure things, but the for sure day one starters, at least as a rookie on the outside, guys you can plug and play right away. It is Okudah and Henderson on the outside, 100% in this year's draft class. I don't know how successful each of those guys are going to be, But for Jacksonville, it's the move they needed to make, so I'm giving that an A. Cleveland up next. They got Jedrick Wills, right tackle from Alabama. I'm going to give that an A as well. You got Jack Conklin there, played right tackle for Tennessee, but drafted out of Michigan State as a left tackle. So there should be no issues for him to slide all the way to left tackle. You get Jedrick Wills at right tackle. You've solidified your offensive line. It's going to make Nick Chubb a very happy guy. Should make Baker Mayfield also very happy. And it makes sense. It's exactly the move they need to make. They've solidified that offensive line, and a lot of their issues on offense should hopefully get remedied because there's going to be a pocket, and Nick Chubb should be even more productive. Jets, we're up on the clock next, and they got MEKHI Becton. Gigantic human being from Louisville, offensive tackle. When this pick was coming in, this is where, as an Eagle fan, we're starting to be like, all right, I had my mock CeeDee Lamb going to the Jets. My first wide receiver on the board. And I was looking at the Jets roster, and I was like, you know what would make sense here? A tackle. I wasn't even thinking Becton because I thought the failed drug test, even though the new CBA seems to be a little bit there. I think that's come more to a disciplinary. I thought they would go WIRFS or Chasson before they went wide receiver. Because I think tackle and edge, I would slightly prioritize over wide receiver. They come in there and get Becton. They view him as a franchise tackle. By all means, you need to get one of those. If you have Sam Darnold, you would argue after you have your assumed franchise quarterback, the next most important spot in the offense is your franchise tackle. And hopefully they got that in Becton. Very high ceiling. I'm just going to give it a B+, because I question the value of Becton, the perceived value of Becton with the failed, I don't know if it was a diluted sample or something like that from the combine. Essentially, he failed a drug test where the league's getting a lot more lenient, but I kind of view that as like, you fail a drug test, you should slip a little bit, not go where you're roughly expected to go. And that's kind of what happened with Becton. But we all know AFC East. We saw it with Miami and Tunsil. Now we're seeing it with New York and Becton. Drugs are cool, okay? Next up, we have the Las Vegas Raiders. They got Henry Ruggs III. I'm going to give that an A. Speedster. I had that in my mock draft that they're going to go Henry Ruggs. John Gruden would fall in love with the speed. He did not drop a lot of passes. He's elite on the outside. And it's going to force Derek Carr, quarterback that has been just a check-down machine, it feels like, the last couple of years, who does have the arm talent to stretch the field. It's going to kind of force him to do that. It's an exciting playmaker for Las Vegas. You need the optics of the marketing side of things. You got one of the fastest players in the NFL, a guy that within the division, now you're going to have Ruggs versus Tyreek Hill. It's going to be a track meet. So I like the optics of it. It makes a lot of sense from a marketing standpoint. It makes a lot of sense from a talent standpoint. It's a good pick for the Raiders. That's an A. Can't wait till we get the next Raiders selection, though, for the grades. Tampa Bay is up next. They traded. Tampa traded their first round pick, basically to move up one spot, and they basically traded a fourth round pick. There was a seventh exchange from the 49ers, but essentially Tampa traded a fourth round pick to move up one spot to select Tristan Wirfs. I'm going to give this a B+. It's a B+ because there's no way the Niners, well, not no way, but it's highly unlikely the Niners were not going to select this. And I feel like they bet against themselves because the first or the fourth is not a lot. And I don't think any of the other teams, Tampa could have got paranoid that someone else was going to trade with the 49ers. I just feel like you're one spot. If someone was trading up, it would have been someone trying to trade it for a wide receiver. I don't think anyone at this point would be trying to trade up for a tackle. I mean, maybe they got spooked by like a Miami, a team with assets that's still kind of in the market for a tackle. Either way, it's still a B+. It's a good trade. I'm just questioning moving up one spot for a fourth rounder for a guy that I feel like probably still would have been there at your original draft spot. But Wirfs, tackle, protecting Tom Brady. He could be a right tackle. He could be a left tackle. Some people think he could move in the guard. Either way, he would be an upgrade for that Bucs offensive line. And with protecting Tom Brady as your top priority, I suppose, just giving up a fourth round pick to ensure you get a guy that could emerge as the best tackle from this year's draft class. It's a B+. It's still a good grade, but it's just more so you gave up a fourth rounder to move up one spot. I don't know if that was necessary. So the Niners are now sitting here, and they got JAVON KINLAW out of South Carolina. I'm going to give that a B. Again, it's the optics of it. You moved on from DeForest Buckner, and you essentially, with that pick, got a DeForest Buckner replacement. Now, it makes sense and it doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense because, if you looked at any of the 49ers mock draft, if you mocked them to a D tackle, they're like, why? Why would you get rid of Buckner and then just draft another D tackle? And from one side of things, that kind of makes sense. It's like, well, clearly they might like the value that they have on the team, and then you know, if you draft a D tackle there, is there remorse that you got rid of Buckner? You're like, oh man, maybe we don't trust the depth at our position, right? So that's kind of what affects the rating a little bit. I'm not going to give it a bad score because essentially Javon Kinlaw's ceiling is DeForest Buckner. And the big problem with DeForest Buckner is he wanted to get paid. So now you're hoping that with Kinlaw, you're getting what you lost in DeForest Buckner, and you're getting that on a rookie deal, affordable deal that you can work with your salary cap. So, you know, I get both sides of the argument for Kinlaw. I think ultimately it's not a bad pick, and a B, I think that's a fair grade. Denver is now up on the clock, and they select Jerry Jeudy, wide receiver from Alabama. I'm giving that an A. He could very well have been the guy. Denver won it all along. Denver could have had Jerry Jeudy as a wide receiver 1. They didn't have to move up. He fell to them at pick 15. I'm an Eagle fan right now, and if you're watching the Twitch stream, I was livid that they weren't trading up with the Niners, and they're still sitting here. And I was like, well, you already know Denver's taking one of the wide receivers left between Jeudy and Lamb. But for Denver, great move, man. Jerry Jeudy, especially if you're looking at this, Ruggs is already off the board, so you're trying to find a complement to Courtland Sutton. Wide receiver cores are all about compliments. And the better complement for a Courtland Sutton is a Jerry Jeudy. Jerry Jeudy's shifty route runner, brings a little bit more juice on the outside for speed versus someone like CeeDee Lamb, which is, you know, he's not really a speed guy. He's a really good wide receiver, obviously, elite wide receiver prospect, but CeeDee Lamb is a lot more comparable to a Courtland Sutton than a Jerry Jeudy would be. So adding that compliment into Jerry Jeudy, it's a terrific pick for Denver. Another weapon for a very young quarterback. Another weapon for a team that I think could be a sleeper team. I've yet to decide who's going to be my 2020 sleeper team. Coronavirus has kind of put everything on hold, you know. I'll probably make my decision by weekend's end once the draft is and all the dust has settled. But Denver might be it, man. I think Denver is going to be really good. And I was kind of close to making it Tampa, but I think now with the Gronk and Brady and stuff, Tampa being a sleeper team, that's too easy. That's too obvious. So anyways, an A grade for Jerry Jeudy. Atlanta's up next. They get AJ Terrell, the corner from Clemson. I'm going to give that a C+. It's the reason I can understand this pick if you're Atlanta, but trade back. Because if you're Atlanta, that third corner, right? The first two corners seem to be consensus. It seems to be OKUDAH 1, and then you have CJ Henderson at 2. And then I think it could be a crapshoot for however every other team views that corner 3. It could be Jeff Gladney, could be Jalen Johnson, could be AJ Terrell, could be Trayvon Diggs, could be IGBINOGHENE. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's completely valid. What I'm trying to say, it's completely valid for corner 3 on your board to be AJ Terrell, because athletic profile, outside corner, it makes sense, but not at here. If Atlanta is convinced AJ Terrell, trade back with the Eagles or something like that. They should have traded back here. They didn't get great value, and I feel like wherever they would have found a trade partner potentially, if they could have, again, we're assuming things here, but I assume they could have found a trade partner with someone else in any of these spots in the first round and been able to get AJ Terrell where they wanted to. So, unless maybe the Raiders, judging by the Raiders pick at corner, maybe the Raiders really wanted him, and they got that, they got spooked a little bit. I just feel like the value wasn't there, but the player, AJ Terrell, being considered the third corner in this year's draft, it's not as ridiculous as you may see, but I still have to give it a C+. Miami's up next. It's not Miami, because we got to talk about Dallas got CeeDee Lamb. I'm incredibly salty about this pick. I could not believe Philadelphia did not trade up for this. I'm giving this an A-. Now, I'm giving it an A- because Dallas had much bigger pressing needs in the secondary. When all is said and done, when we do the big, broad grades, I will tell you, this could shift up just to a solid A because they got insane value. If they can somehow in second round, third round, maybe someone slips to them at a corner or safety spot in the second round. Like, they could find a way to get Grant Delpit or something like that in the second round, or Antoine Winfield. And they secure that defensive back prospect that they desperately need on the defensive side, and they still walked away with CeeDee Lamb in the first round. It's going to be a home run. But right now the optics are, it's unreal value. It's a middle finger to divisional rival in the Philadelphia Eagles. Very similar to what we did a couple years ago when we jumped Dallas to get Dallas Goedert, who's pretty much consensus that was the guy that Dallas wanted. From a divisional standpoint, you bastards. But also, it is kind of ironic and funny in ways. But a lot more pressing needs of wide receiver. You have Amari Cooper you just paid. You got Michael Gallup, who's really good, really high-end wide receiver 2 right now. Now you get another CeeDee Lamb. You could never have too many weapons, But also, if you'd make this selection and then the second, third round, you can't get a good DB that could come in and contribute, you know, it might be better served using this pick to not troll another team in your division and go with a safety or go with a corner. Still getting an A- from me, though, for right now. And it definitely could go up to an A, depending on how Dallas finishes out the rest of this draft. Next up, we have the Miami Dolphins. They got Austin Jackson, tackle from USC. I'm going to give that a C. Again, I feel the perceived value Jackson. They could have traded down. They could have got more picks. I don't think there's going to be a rush on Austin Jackson. But a young tackle, I think he's only 20, high ceiling. It's a good position. They need to improve that offensive line, especially now that you got Tua. I think I might have went Josh Jones here. But, you know, it's not, again, it's kind of one of the optics. You know, once you get out of the big four tackles, once Becton, WIRFS, Andrew Thomas, Wills is gone, I mean, it's not out of left field to have Austin Jackson as your tackle 5. I wouldn't have had it. But again, kind of like AJ Terrell, it's really a logjam. And then teams for different schemes and different fits and how the interview process went are going to have different guys. So it's not a ridiculous tackle 5 to come off the board. I just think they probably could have traded back. Vegas Raiders up next, and they got Damon Arnette, corner from Ohio State. This is getting a D, unfortunately. I will say it's not all doom and gloom for Raider fans. This guy is a scheme fit for you guys. It's just, it was not good value at all. At all. 100%. Wherever the Raiders are, they have a second round pick, right? They probably could have got Damon Arnette in that second pick. Not good value at all. This is D. The player is not a brutal player for Vegas. He fits what they try to do on defense. It's just the value is horrible. It's like Daniel Jones again. It's Daniel Jones in terms of value. Should not have got this. He should not have sniffed the first round. Philadelphia, Jalen Reagor. Now that I've been able to sit back and reflect, we're just grading the player, right? I'm not going to do the optics. If there was a trade, I can kind of have that affect the grade. The fact that Dallas got CeeDee Lamb and we sat there and got Jalen Reagor, a guy that I felt like I had a bad dream that he was going to be our pick yesterday morning. I made a bunch of tweets about it. Ended up getting him. I had that Derek Barnett, Andre Dillard vibe of like, we're going to get him. Oh, his dad has ties to the Eagles team. It's Doug Peterson is keeping it in the building. Rah, guy. Let's bring in him. He has drop issues. He drops the ball, man. I just hope it works. I'm giving it a B-. I came to the conclusion that I think I would rather Jalen Reagor at 21 than Justin Jefferson at 21. What the Philadelphia Eagles need at wide receiver at 21 is not a guy that's in Justin Jefferson that most likely is going to be a really good slot wide receiver. We need a guy that is 100% going to be at least has the ceiling of a really good outside perimeter wide receiver. And that's what Reagor is. So from a style of wide receiver, Reagor, it's getting a B- for what we need. And I don't hate the pick as much as my reaction, because we're already in almost every Eagle fan was in a pissed off mood that Dallas got CeeDee Lamb, that Philly didn't trade up. So the optics of this selection of Jalen Reagor, knowing that Dallas got Lamb, knowing that I would say San Francisco and Atlanta would be into dealing a pick, it definitely, I'd maybe unfairly negatively affects this Jalen Reagor selection, but just viewing it in a bubble, not looking at outside noise, Jalen Reagor at 21 is not a horrific pick. I think if the drops are not, he had terrible quarterback play at TCU, but the drops are worrisome. But from an athletic profile, he's a burner. You watch the tape, he reminds me of like Deebo Samuel, who was sensational last year for the 49ers. He has the speed, but you know, there's also a chance, you know, there's also a chance he could be Dante Pettis 2.0. You know, a special teamer that has mental lapse drops and is going to struggle as a wide receiver, but you're going to get a great punt returner. Like, there's also a chance that this is what this emerges. So it's just, I don't know. I'm giving it a B-. I could go on for 10 minutes about this pick. We'll just move on. Minnesota got Justin Jefferson. Very happy. I'm giving that a B+. It's just a solid pick now. Now, you know, now the A's, it's going to be really tough to get an A once you get in the back end. If you get an assume pick, I'm not going to go too hard. But Justin Jefferson, he's got to fill in that Stephon Diggs spot. It's a good fit for Minnesota. This debatably could be an A. Maybe I'm being overly critical, but I just noticed from here on the back end, you know, the last 10, 12 picks, you have to have like a wow to get an A. And I think a guy like Justin Jefferson, you're getting a slot wide receiver. A really good one. A guy's going to be able to fill in for Stephon Diggs for a lot what Diggs did, but it's a slot. It's not an outside guy. It's not a perimeter guy. But it could be an A. Maybe I'm being overclip. It's a B. It's a strong B+, teetering on an A. Next up, we have the LA Chargers. Back on the clock. They got Kenneth Murray, linebacker from Oklahoma. I'm giving this a D+. They gave up a second and a third to get Kenneth Murray. It's just not good value. It is what it is. There's no elite linebacker prospect after Isaiah Simmons, and that's even if you view Isaiah Simmons as a linebacker. Some people have him as a safety. I just feel like giving a 2 and a 3, pretty much giving up your draft in a year that you should have your picks to continue to build up your team around your new young quarterback and Justin Herbert. Kenneth Murray, it makes he's going to be an upgrade over Thomas Davis on that defense. That linebacking core could definitely use some work. I just think 2 and a 3, it's a lot to give up for a linebacker in today's NFL. So it's a D+, but Kenneth Murray's not a bad player. Linebacker's not a bad position to address. It's just what you gave to get that pick. It's a little too rich for my blood. New Orleans is up, and they got CESAR RUIZ, center from Michigan. I'm going to give this a C. You have a center in Eric McCoy. I assume they're going to flex Eric McCoy into guard and CESAR RUIZ, and you got Larry Warford at guard. Like it felt like a weird pick. It's getting a C. I mean, Ruiz is a safe player. Should be a day one starter at center. I look at the Saints. I don't feel like interior line is where they should have used their first round pick. So it's just a weird pick. It's going to get a C. San Francisco traded their first round pick to move up and a 4th and a 5th to get Brandon AIYUK, wide receiver from Arizona State. Reports came out that Shanahan had AIYUK as their number 1 wide receiver. That's why they traded up. So trading a 4 and a 5 to get AIYUK. I'm giving it a C+. Again, the value is not particularly great for AIYUK, but he's an outside perimeter wide receiver. Complements what they have in Deebo Samuel, who can do everything, but you're probably going to want Deebo to literally do anything. He can play slot, he can play outside, but you get a guy like AIYUK, most likely just going to solely keep him on the outside of the field. It's an explosive option. Nice little deep threat for a team that's really with Dante Pettis, and you got Marquise Goodwin. Getting out there in age, uncertainty for both those guys. Getting a guy like AIYUK that's going to offer that deep threat for a Shanahan offense. It's a solid pick. Green Bay is now up, and they selected Jordan Love, quarterback from Utah State, pulling a Brett Favre Aaron Rodgers on Aaron Rodgers. They gave a 4th round pick to move up to get Jordan Love. I'm giving this a B-. I think long term, it's great. Guy, you got LaFleur, QB guru, Jordan Love, all the tangibles there, going to a perfect scenario. He could end up being, the next big-time thing quarterback. I'm grading the pick itself. You have Aaron Rodgers still there, and you essentially gambled on the future of your team versus getting Aaron Rodgers, a Mims, or like a big-time wide receiver that can help him immediately next year. So if we're grading this, we kind of have to grade all these picks, what are you going to do next season, I think, almost, in a ways. Because I think, ultimately, getting a Jordan Love here, getting the value of Jordan Love there, it could be an A grade. Absolutely could be an A grade. He can sit behind Aaron Rodgers. He's going to an environment that they have a quarterback guru guy in LaFleur that can develop him and refine him. So, absolutely, from a 3, 4, 5 years from now, this could be looked back 100% as an A grade. But for what it means to the Packers now with Aaron Rodgers, who they're definitely not moving on from, it got to be a B-. It's not a bad pick at all. Maybe a B- is a little harsh, but you didn't go and find a way to help Aaron Rodgers, help this team get over the hump next year. Maybe that's kind of my viewing of why I'm a little bit critical about this pick. But Jordan Love, man, there you go. Future. Seattle's next up on the clock. They got Jordan Brooks, linebacker, Texas Tech, D. Classic Seattle. You knew this pick was going to be terrible when they were going to make it. Patrick Queen still on the board. You get Jordan Brooks, D. Baltimore. Next up, they got Patrick Queen, smiling from year to year. Linebacker LSU, it's an A. The draft rich get richer. Baltimore kills the draft almost every year. And then, hey, they get probably, in my opinion, the best linebacker in this draft. Their most desperate position on their team was the linebacker spot. They didn't have to trade up. They just sat there. He fell into their lap. It is an A, borderline A+ for the Baltimore Ravens. The only reason why it's not an A+ is because Patrick Queen, 2-year starter. Not 100%. There's maybe some questions about it, but I'm not overly worried. It's an A. Tennessee. Next up on the clock, got Isaiah Wilson, tackle from Georgia. That's a C- for me. I think a little bit of a reach. There was some buzz that he was going to go in the first round. His tape was not anything spectacular. Again, I think you look at Josh Jones, Ezra Cleveland. Those are guys I probably would have taken over Isaiah Wilson. It's not going to get a worse grade than a C-. I mean, C- still is a pretty bad grade when you're looking at every other grade that I've thrown out here. But from a positional standpoint, I mean, you know, the ceiling is there for Isaiah Wilson. They need a tackle to come and replace Jack Conklin. I just don't think Isaiah Wilson was the right tackle prospect, but I will give them some points for addressing offensive line. Miami next up on the clock. They got Noah Igbinoghene, corner from Auburn, C-. Again, you have 3 first-round picks. Continue to protect Tua. You have 2 of the most expensive corners in the NFL in Xavier Howard and Byron Jones. Sure, you can go overkill, and then Igbinoghene could be that, you know, your slot or something like that, or you can move one of those other guys in the slot, or maybe they view Byron Jones as a safety, kind of like Malcolm Jenk. I don't know, but I'm assuming they have 2 really good corners in Xavier Howard and Byron Jones, and you just get another one when your offensive line is still the shits. You know, yeah, it's a C-. And again, the only reason why it gets a C- is like I can understand if you find a way to have all 3 of those guys on the field at once, and Igbinoghene, he is what you think he is as a first-round caliber corner, you're gonna have the best cornerback room maybe in the NFL. But the offensive line is the shits. There's still linemen there. Yeah, you know, it's a weird pick. C-. Minnesota next on the clock. They got Jeff Gladney, my boy from TCU. I'm giving this a B+. I think it's a solid pick. It's just more so, I guess there is still the gamble that is Jeff Gladney going to be an outside guy who's going to be a slot corner. And for the Minnesota Vikings, if he emerges as a slot corner, if his ceiling is a slot corner, first round, getting a slot corner in the first round, that's kind of the option. But he's my dog. I think he can play on the outside. He's aggressive to play on the outside. A little bit of a Chris Harris mold. I'm going to B+. Really nice pick here. I'm glad he went in the first. And then the final pick of the first round, Kansas City getting Clyde Edwards-Helaire, running back from LSU. I'm going to give this a B. Again, a lot of people were surprised. I'm surprised they took him over DeAndre Swift, but I'm not shocked at the pick because clearly Kansas City wants a receiving back. If you want a receiving back, you're going to have Edwards-Helaire over Jonathan Taylor. If you want a receiving back, you're going to have Edwards-Helaire over J.K. Dobbins. And apparently, if you want the receiving back, you're going to have Edwards-Helaire over DeAndre Swift. I don't think I agree with that, but it's not a bad pick. And they got running back, who I thought they definitely could be in play for running back or a corner. And Edwards-Helaire, a lot of people were saying Andy Reid thinks he's, you know, Brian Westbrook levels, which stylistically I kind of compare him to a bigger Darren Sproles, which essentially is kind of like a Brian Westbrook anyway. So it's not a bad pick at all. And we end the draft with a B. And generally speaking, most teams drafted very well in this virtual NFL draft. Not a lot of complaints here. And those are my first round grades. We're probably not going to be doing a grades video for the second or third rounds. We're just going to wait, and we'll do the big final post-draft, every team's grades, every team's best and worst picks kind of thing. Oh, and shit, we forgot Jacksonville, the second Jags pick. So we're squeezing that in here. Jags fans probably screaming, where's my second pick grade? Forgot. We got it here, though. They selected Caleb Chesson, edge rusher from LSU. I'm giving that a B+. It's kind of similar to when they got Josh Allen. When they got Josh Allen at Kentucky, many people, myself included, thought he'd be better suited in a 3-4 edge rushing role. So you maximize, obviously, the edge rush ability, but you get the benefit that Josh Allen actually can drop back into coverage. Kind of the exact same thing we just saw. I mean, the writing's on the wall with Yannick Ngakoue. He's pretty much out the door, so you need to get that replacement at edge. Chesson, definitely the best edge rusher. Good value at pick 20, and similar optics to Josh Allen. A lot of people projected him to be a 3-4 because you can have the edge rushing upside, but he also can drop back into coverage. So it's another versatile defensive lineman for the Jacksonville Jaguars at their disposal. So for me, that's a B+. So there we go. A little bit of an adjustment there, but we're finished my first round grades. Let me know what you guys feel about in the comment. Are you happy with your team's pick? Are you pissed with your team's pick? Are you happy with my grade? Are you disappointed with my grade? Let me know. We'll be back here live on YouTube tonight for the second and third round streaming that. So make sure you tune in and like, subscribe, all that good stuff. I'll catch you guys back here on the next one. Peace out.